Well, hello there. I'm Robert Fifth, and here we are again in 1983. By now, you know the drill. Just a whole lot of albums from 1983 that I'm rating and reviewing, going chronologically. And we are now up to July 5th, and this album has just been released. The debut from Suicidal Tendencies. And yeah, a punk hardcore album that really just kind of set a new standard, really. This was one of the most popular ones at the time. I remember, I didn't really know about it in 1983 because I was 10 years old. This was more something I discovered towards the late 80s when everything started to go to hell, you know, and Bon Jovi's getting popular and the hard rock of the time was getting less and less interesting, more and more corporate. It started all sounding the same. I started getting bored with it. I've told this story before. I think a lot of us did back then. And that's what made all the alternative rock come crashing in the early 90s. So 88, 89, somewhere around there is when I discovered this, and along with all kinds of other punk rock as well. This one kind of stood out as being a little more, I guess, speaking directly to us at that age, more like one of our peers, I guess, made an album. You know, like somebody your age made it, you know, you're 17 years old, 16 years old, and it was like, one of your friends made a punk rock album and it sounded like this. Although realizing all these years later that this is actually pretty well written, pretty prolific stuff in here. So it's great. I thought it was great then. I think it's great now, with the exception of one song, and I'll get to that one. You can probably figure out what song that is. Yeah, an alternative starts it off. You know, not the kind of thing that you're going to see on a public service announcement, that's for sure. I think that you have to take these lyrics sort of tongue-in-cheek, sort of like ironically. They've explained all that before. Two-sided politics is excellent as well. I love the line about, I'm not anti-political, politics are anti-me. I'm not anti-religion, religion is anti-me. I'm not anti-tradition, tradition's anti-me. I'm not anti-society, society is anti-me. Nailed it. That's genius, especially considering it's a punk rock band and it's the early 80s. But yeah, definitely those lines in that song right there just really sum up this entire album and their whole outlook on everything. I love the I Won't Fall in Love Tomorrow as well. The thing I always got out of the lyrics in that song is basically what a lot of young people feel like. It's like, well, I'm this age, I need a girlfriend or I need a boyfriend. You seem interested. Okay, you're my girlfriend now. So now I've got a girlfriend. I'm not going to fall in love. I'm going to do all the things that you're supposed to do, and we're going to go out, but, you know, we're going through the motions, and you make me feel like a man, so, you know, you make me feel like a grown-up in this relationship, so that's why we're doing this. I don't know if that's what they meant by the song, but that's always what I got out of the lyrics. Memories of tomorrow, die in sorrow, mouth starvation, computer mutilated bodies, yeah, hopefully it won't go that far, but you know, who knows? So yeah, and of course, you know, I could go all these other tracks, but the one, you know, Institutionalized is the big one off here. That's the one that actually had a video that would show up on like Headbangers, I think it was a Headbangers Ball or 120 Minutes. It would show up like in the late 80s every once in a great while on MTV. Definitely never saw that, like I said, in 1983 when this was first out, or even 84, 85, 86. But towards the late 80s, I saw that video a couple of times. I'm like, man, they're showing this on MTV? But yeah, I'm not crazy. You're the one that's crazy. The guy's just hanging out in his bedroom. You know, he's a teenager. He's thinking, he's quiet. And then here come the parents. He's being too quiet. He's thinking. He's too whatever. They're going to put him in an institution because of that. And all he did was ask for a Pepsi. That's become quite the iconic line over the years too. All he wanted was a Pepsi. So yeah, there's that, and I'm surprised MTV played that, because anytime anybody would say something like a brand name, especially like a soft drink or something like that, they would edit it out. I remember the Humpty Dance. This is the only review you'll ever see where somebody is talking about tendencies and then jumps to Digital Underground, the Humpty Dance, where he's talking about a Burger King bathroom and a couple of other like name drops and things like that, and they were all edited out. Anyway, they kept Pepsi in. But I love the part of that song where it really, I mean, these are some well-written lyrics. It just disguised by this crazy, punk rock stuff, and screaming and fast tempo, slow tempo, fast tempo, just the constant chaos, basically, of this album. But there's some really good stuff in here. Like, wait a minute. I went to your schools, I went to your churches, I went to your institutionalized learning facilities, and so how are you going to say that I'm crazy? He could have actually taken that even further. I watched your TV shows that you put on the air. I listened to your music that you put on the radio. I wore the clothes that you put in stores. All this stuff. How are you going to, after I did everything I'm supposed to do, I was this, I was that, I was right a teenager, right in line, and now you're going to say I'm crazy and put me in an institution. Said it was the only solution. So yeah. Great. The only song that I always skipped over, I never liked, was I Saw Your Mommy. I don't think it fits with the rest of this album. I think that song is supposed to be a joke. I just never thought it was funny. I never liked it. It's totally off, like, the mood and the whole thing this album's trying to say. Then you got this kind of, like, shock value type song. That it doesn't ring true. Again, I think it's supposed to be a joke. I just never liked it, never thought it was funny, and I think it kind of brings the whole album down. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. I would have given it 4 more, or 1 more if it wasn't for that stupid I Saw Your Mommy song. But this is definitely the kind of thing that you listen to when you're 14 years old, 15 years old, 17 years old, whatever. Listening to this when you're, in your 40s is not gonna, it's not the kind of thing you're gonna run out here for the first time in your 40s and think, oh my God, my mind's blown. But if you take this and the right, get this in the right age and the right setting, when you're right there in that peak, like teen angst type thing, you're so confused, you're figuring out that the world is shit. You've been protected this whole time by your parents or by society or whatever as a little kid, and you didn't even realize it was happening. And then suddenly the veil starts getting lifted when you get into your teenage years. You're confused, you're angry, you're pissed off, and you need an adult to come around and go, hey, you know what? That feeling you're feeling, it's called adulthood. Welcome to it. It's never going to go away. You're just going to get used to it. That's the time to find tendencies and hopefully, not act upon those tendencies. But yeah, 4-star album here. Definitely landmark or whatever. I just wish it didn't have that stupid I Saw Your Mommy song. It's July of 1983 and Lita Ford has just released her debut album and she is out for blood. Of course, Lita Ford, formerly of the Runaways. Now, she would have some hits later on like Kiss Me Deadly and then team up with Ozzy Osbourne for Close My Eyes Forever. That's on the album called Lita. That's later on, that's 1988. This is her debut. No big hits off of this one. Had not heard this album before. But, it's Lita Ford. You get her kind of tough girl, rock out kind of thing. As far as the music on here, it goes from being like crazy kind of like wild guitar, shredding and, a lot of attitude, especially the first couple of tracks. And then other ones, it's like the music goes way just kind of pedestrian and we're just kind of keeping the rhythm there, just kind of real basic stuff. So it kind of goes both directions there. I think what they probably did was concentrated on a few songs they wanted to become singles or whatever, and then just filled the rest of it. But overall, it's a pretty good album. Lita Ford, she's already got a name for herself, but not, known as a member of the Runaways. A lot of people probably didn't know who actually Lita Ford was when this was out. And it didn't really make her super popular or anything, but listening to it after all these years, there's some nice moments on here. She's ready, she's willing, she's able, so get your ass in gear and get to it. She's ready. That's literally the lyrics. That's kind of like more of a blues rock type of thing. She gets all tender. Come on, baby, give me another try. That's the song, Just a Feeling. Very tender. Also, Rock and Roll Made Me What I Am Today. That's more in the Runaways kind of area. She's this young teenage girl. Oh, mom and dad don't understand rock and roll. I gotta rock and roll. It made me what I am today. Got a nice hook on that one. Stay With Me is just this fiery number. That's the second track on here. Just the guitarist letting it rip and just kind of cranking everything up a little bit. So that's pretty cool. That's definitely a highlight. You got there's a cover of Any Way You Want Me to Be. That's actually that was a Trog song. You know, written by Chip Taylor, the guy that wrote Wild Thing. Wrote that for the Trogs, and so they did it, and then H.P. Lovecraft, the psychedelic group, did it. Spiritualized did it in the 90s. Juice Newton did a country version of it. So that song's been done and done and done and done and done. You know, 20 more times other than the ones I just mentioned. So she does her version. You know, why not? Everybody else has done it. She's going to do it too. So, a great debut. I'm going to give it 3 stars because it's not blowing me away or anything, but it is, you know, it's cool. You know, nothing too awful on it, but nothing too, you know, the second track's kind of, you know, the highlight, you know, but it did get released with this crazy cover of her standing in front of a spider web and blood, and she's out for blood, written kind of like a 60s horror movie font there. That was immediately changed and then re-released with that cover. So that one is the more popular cover. I've seen this album a few times, and that's always the cover I see because the original cover was only around, I think, for a few months. So either one, same music, same mix. It's Lita Ford, Out for Blood. It is now July 11th, 1983, and the LA group Shalamar has just released The Look. And yeah, they've been around since the 70s, and so now, of course, it's 1983, so they've got the synths going on, they got the real deep bass, they got some dance floor bangers, I think, before they were called bangers. That probably really heated up the dance floor on this. The only 2 songs I ever knew from Shalamar before I started this whole thing was Dancing in the Sheets from the Footloose soundtrack and Dead Giveaway, which is on this album. So yeah, Dead Giveaway, solid club song. And that's what you got here. You got a little more dance-oriented stuff than you do like funky stuff, which I'm finding out there's not a lot of funky stuff going on in 1983. It's a lot of electro-funk, which isn't really kind of funky, and a lot of just full-on dance club kind of stuff. Or you've got smoothed out R&B ballads. The 80s is not like the 70s when it comes to R&B music. So I'm going to be grading on a real curb when it comes to albums like this. But this was a decent listen. I could imagine the dance floors, like I said, being lit up when some of these tracks came on. The first track, Closer, really sets the tone. You got the synths going, you got the drums banging, and you got Shalamar in there, who consists of Jody Watley and Jeffrey Daniel and the other guy. Jeffrey Daniel went on to be a choreographer for some Michael Jackson videos, among all kinds of other things. He helped to choreograph the videos for Bad and Smooth Criminal, did a lot of other things as well. And of course, Jody Watley went on in the later 80s to become Jody Watley. So they're here, a lot of fun, a lot of up-tempo stuff. Of course, like I mentioned, Dead Giveaway is on this, but so is a song called No Limits, The Now Club, which playing that, it sounds like it's the opening to a really fun 80s movie. It's the kind of thing that would be playing while the credits are going and you know you're in for a fun 80s movie. I don't think that ever actually happened, but it sounds like that type of song. You got Over and Over, which is catchy. It does say the line over and over till it sticks in your brain. But you also got a few ballads on here. You Can Count on Me and You're the One for Me. Those are best skipped. I'm not a really big into their ballads, but their up-tempo stuff is a lot of fun. It also, of course, has the title track, The Look, at the very end, which is like You Got the Look, which is, you know, 4 years before the Prince one. So yeah, Shalamar, I wonder what their earlier stuff sounds like. I'm going to eventually get around to investigating some of their 70s stuff and see if they get a little bit funkier, a little bit grittier, but who knows. I know this was the last album to feature Jody Watley, so she's going to leave and start cooking up that solo career. So in 1983, Aretha Franklin is between 2 big parts in her career. Of course, she's got the late 60s, early 70s stuff when she was with Atlantic, just hit after hit after hit. That was the paramount of her career, I think, and just putting out excellent albums that they're just absolute, gems all the way through. And then, then she gets into the late 70s, early 80s, not so popular, and then has a big smash pop comeback with Freeway of Love, which will be on the next album, Who's Zooming Who. So on July 12th, 1983, she released the album called Get It Right. Now, this is one of those ones that kind of get overlooked. Nobody really talks a lot about this album. I don't think it got a lot of critical acclaim. I think it did okay on the R&B charts. Didn't do a lot on the pop charts with either one of the singles or the album. But checking this out, man, it is, wow, it's pretty prime stuff, actually. It starts off with the title track, Get It Right. First thing you hear is this thick funk, electro funk kind of 1983 music. And you're like, damn, this is an Aretha Franklin album? And yes, it is. And of course, Aretha Franklin herself comes on with that just incredible voice. And it's almost like the two are just trying to see who's going to be more powerful. This big, huge throwdown dance funk track. Aretha Franklin vocals over it. It's, they're battling it out, but you're the winner of that battle because you're the one listening to it. So super impressed with the music on this, first of all. I expected it to be like, well, we've got Aretha Franklin's voice. Let's just put some half-ass music behind it and call it a day. I mean, to read some of the reviews of some of her, this mid-career stuff, you would think that's what's going on. That is not what is going on here. This was produced by Luther Vandross, who I'm not a huge fan of his music. He does a little bit too much of a smoothed out R&B, Quiet Storm type stuff. I'm not really into that so much, but I'm definitely into his production work on here because the music on here is just, it absolutely slams. The second song on here, Pretender, funky stuff too. And then we get into the second single, Every Girl is Trying to Get My Guy. And that's some fun stuff right there with, she's got such a great guy that all these different girls are trying to get him. And she's not going to let it happen. Best part of this, she's on the phone with her girlfriend. She's like, yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, well, this woman trying to come up. Yeah, she's trying to get me away from my man. Miss Thing is all about it. And it's like, you have not lived until you've heard Aretha Franklin say Miss Thing, which she does in the middle of that song. But great song otherwise. The first three songs on here, I mean, excellent. I mean, if you're going to put Aretha Franklin in 1983, this is exactly how I think it should sound. Now, after that, we slow down a little bit for When You Love Me Like That. Now, this is the one where it gets kind of more of a slower kind of, sexy Aretha Franklin. She's talking about when you turn me on and turn me out. It's like, wow, Aretha Franklin's getting turned out on this album. Did not see that coming. She does a cover on side 2 of The Temptations, I Wish It Would Rain, where this whole gospel, background choir comes in, and side 2 really kind of takes the steam off and kind of settles down a little bit into more of a straightforward R&B thing. We're not doing the full-on throwdown dance floor thing like we were in the first 3 tracks on side 1, but it's still great. It's still prime Aretha Franklin vocally. This is exactly how I think Aretha Franklin should sound, or I would want Aretha Franklin to sound if she was in 1983, and that's exactly what this is. So after the Temptations remake, she does this song about how we're better friends than we are lovers. Yes, we were lovers for a while, but I think we're going to work out a lot better as just friends, because that happens. In Aretha Franklin's world, that happens, apparently. So yeah, after that, she starts singing about how she's never been rich, but she's all got some kind of love. And it's Aretha Franklin has definitely been rich. She's the woman that used to carry her purse right out on the stage and throw it down on the floor and then do a whole concert. Concert's over, she picks up her purse. She never wanted to leave her money anywhere or never put her money like in a bank or whatever or anything. She had it in her purse. She put it on the stage. She wants to have an eye on it the whole time. She never trusted the music industry with her money. Aretha Franklin was extremely intelligent, obviously, to not be trusting the music industry with her money. So yeah, this is a great album. This is 4 stars. I mean, this is, it does taper off a little bit on side 2, so that's why it's now 5 stars. But those first 3 tracks on side 1, if you're talking about, I want to hear some funky Aretha Franklin with a 1983 version of funk. We're not talking like 70s funk here. We're talking 1983. Then just pick up Get It Right from Aretha Franklin. And we have reached July 15th of 1983 when Robert Plant released his second solo album called The Principle of Moments. And this might have been one of the first times that I ever heard Robert Plant and knew that that was a guy named Robert Plant, and he used to be in Led Zeppelin. I did not grow up with Led Zeppelin. My older brother, who had the classic rock that I was, would be involved with, was more into Bob Seger, Steve Miller Band, Head East, Styx, Sammy Hagar, and Nazareth, Hair of the Dog, thank you for that. But felt that Led Zeppelin, and especially Pink Floyd, were too weird. Yeah, he was all about the Midwestern kind of angle there, not the European, English, classic rock kind of stuff at the time. So I did not get any kind of exposure to Led Zeppelin. I think I maybe knew a couple of their songs kind of peripherally. But yeah, Robert Plant playing on Friday Night Videos, Big Log, and In the Mood from this album was my first, like, okay, now I know who Robert Plant is. And he used to be in Led Zeppelin, and there he is, and that's what he looks like, and that's what he sounds like, kind of thing. So kind of a strange thing, but, you know, I was 10 years old again in 1983. So, but yeah, this album all the way through, it's kind of hit or miss. It's interesting. It's nice to hear Robert Plant's voice sounding terrific. He's still, you know, relatively young at this point, so he's great. You know, this isn't Led Zeppelin. If you're listening to Robert Plant solo stuff and you're expecting hard rock or real gutsy blues rock, or, you know, you're not going to get it. Especially on this album, you're going to get an 80s sound, you're going to get keyboards, you're going to get Phil Collins' drums, including the gated reverb, turned up a little more on some songs than it is on others. In the Mood is the one where it really kind of has that Phil Collins drum sound. In the mood for a melody, I'm in the mood for a melody, I'm in the mood. Brown, brown. Great guitar from Robbie Blunt, who was with Robert Plant for quite a while. He didn't really do, he was more of a studio musician on other people's albums, but he was more known for being Robert Plant's guitarist. But In the Mood and Big Log, the two singles, really stand out to me on this because those are the ones I knew from years and years ago, seeing the videos on Friday Night Videos and everything. And so they stand out. They come on and it's like full-on nostalgia, full-on got my attention, and they're great. I don't know how I would have felt about them if I would have been like 25 years old and listening to this, but you know, they were cool. Big Log, you know, his love is in league with the freeway as the cities fly by. And I think I really like the Through With the Two-Step melody. It's definitely got the synths going on. It starts off side 2, but I really like that melody, the vocal line and the vocal melody and everything that goes with that is super sweet. This album starts off with Other Arms, which is a great opener. Lets you know what you're in for, and a decent song as well. So there's about 4 really great tracks on here and about 4 forgettable ones. It's got 8 songs, so about half and half on here. You know, things like Horizontal Departure and Messing with the Mekon are kind of, they don't really grab me. They're kind of forgettable. But Robert Plant's voice, though, stellar on here. So I will give this, you know, it's really more, it's one of those things where I'm really kind of torn between 3 and 4 stars. It's like a 3.5 star thing, but it's Robert Plant. Little slap back vocal effect on some of his vocals, like with Messing with the Mekon, give it kind of a rockabilly kind of thing going on there. I don't know if you necessarily need to do that to Robert Plant's voice, but overall, I'm going to be, you know, Big Log and In the Mood, the nostalgia for that. I'm going to give this 4 stars. It's definitely my favorite Robert Plant solo album, but mostly because of those 2 songs and being exposed to those so young and thinking they were great. So yeah, 4 stars for The Principle of Moments from Robert Plant, but do not go into this expecting the sound of Led Zeppelin. One of the main reasons I really love doing these really deep dives into these individual years is to, well, provide you with music that you may not be familiar with. I know I'm getting a lot of awesome comments that I just love reading about how people are getting turned on to bands or albums because of these videos. I'd never heard of these guys. Oh, wow, this is great. Thank you so much. I absolutely love reading comments like that. It's one of the reasons I'm doing these deep dives. I love that the vinyl community has given me music that I didn't know about or had kind of overlooked, and I'm like, now it's some of my favorite albums. This has gone on for years now, and I love being able to give that back. It's what it's all about. But I also love, selfishly, for discovering music for myself that I wasn't that familiar with, that I'm absolutely like blown away by. Here we are, July 15th, 1983, and Burning from the Inside is an album from Bauhaus. It would be their final album for years and years and years, but what a way to go out. This album is fantastic. I had not heard of this album. I don't see this album anywhere. Bauhaus to me is Peter Murphy in a cage talking about a dead Bela Lugosi in the Hunger movie. You know, and a few other tracks here and there too, but I finally got to check out this. I was not familiar with it at all. Starts out, you know, it's just got so many different things going on and takes you in so many different places. A lot of diversity here. Those are my favorite kind of albums where it's just not the same thing over and over again, and the variations on a theme, but this one just goes in all kinds of different directions. Starts off with She's in Parties. It's in the can. She's in parties, it's just this, early 80s kind of goth kind of dance kind of thing going on that you can expect. But that's not all they have in store for you. They have three-quarter time Baroque psychedelic music with King Volcano. After that, Whatever Happened to Mr. Moonlight, which is this very melancholy piano-driven piece of music. So, I mean, we're already, track 5, we've already gone so many different places. And a couple of tracks like Wasp and whatever that comes before that. Awesome stuff too. Slice of Life, this light on percussion, just beautiful flowing song that's just like, this is Bauhaus? Wow. And then after that, you of course you take a 180 and you get this aggressive stomping track called Honeymoon Croon. And so the album is going on, and then you're probably thinking, hey, yeah, this is all great, but where's that 9.5 minute pulsing, Bela Lugosi's Dead type track? Well, it's coming up the second from the last. It's the title track, Burning from the Inside. And it's it's more of like a slow throbbing thing than it is a pulsing dance thing, but it is 9.5 minutes long. It is a little bit repetitive, I will say that. It does its, kind of guitar driven hook again and again and again. And it's like, okay, we kind of got this. Okay, thank you. But then the album ends with a song called Hope, believe it or not. And yes, it is an optimistic, very much a bright but it's not, like pandering or trite. But it is definitely not what I expected from Bauhaus. And 5 stars for this album. I've got to get this at one point. I listen to a lot of these albums like 2 or 3 times, depending on how, if I listen to it twice and it's like, okay, I'm not, whatever, like Yaz. But this one I ended up listening to like 4.5 times. I just kept on, man, I want to listen to it again. I'm going to listen. And, I'd listen to a couple albums and I'd come back to this one. I'm going to listen to this one again. So, 5 stars for Burning from the Inside from Bauhaus. If you're a fan of, the earlier stuff or Peter Murphy or, just kind of gothic kind of stuff from the 80s, and you haven't heard this, you definitely want to check it out. But this is the important, right? Even if you're like, I don't like this black fingernail polish, dyed jet black hair, doom and gloom stuff, that is not at all what a lot of this is. So you probably want to check this out, even if you're not into the industrial synth goth stuff from the 80s. Killing Joke is a band from London that have been around for quite a while, making all kinds of different music on their different albums over the years. I have the one from 1994, Pandemonium. Got this as a promotional item when it was new. So this is more of an industrial type of 90s sound, but we're not talking about the 90s right now. We're talking about July 15th, 1983, when they released their album called Fire Dances. Now, they do have quite a bit of different sounds over the years with different albums, but on this particular album, they definitely stay in a very narrow lane all the way through. First 2 songs, The Gathering and Fun and Games, have this kind of galloping, kind of like Bow Wow Wow. Okay, they're a little more, dynamic than the I Want Candy. But you get the idea. It's this kind of chugging along rhythm, this kind of tribal thing going on. And the first 2 songs sound almost identical. The vocals throughout the entire album, with the exception of just a couple of songs, are this kind of thing up here with the this kind of a rallying cry thing. So it is energetic. It is a great sound, but it is very narrow. And I've mentioned in several videos that my favorite kind of albums are where they take chances and go off in different directions, and the whole album is like this sort of journey that you're on, and when you're finished, you've gone to many different places. This is very much down a narrow path. There are some highlights on here, like the song Frenzy, which the vocalist kind of pulls it back a little bit, a little more of a relaxed kind of sound on that track, ironically called Frenzy. There's also a song on here called Feast of Blaze, which it rides the line between kind of exciting, upbeat, like almost a post-punk type of thing, and then also something that's very kind of popish as well. You could either pogo to this, or you could dance like Molly Ringwald in The Breakfast Club. It's right in that fine line. Also, there is Fire Dances, the song Let's All Go to the Fire Dances, sort of the title track. That's probably the best one on here. You have to wait all the way almost to the end of the album to get to that one, though. But a little bit of a different sound. Very energetic, very catchy. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a single. If they had to pick singles off this album, Let's All Go to the Fire Dances would be the one I'd be like, that's the one that they're going to try to get on the radio, at least in the UK. None of these, by the way, anywhere in the US, on the radio, on video shows. Killing Joke was a band I never even heard of until the early 90s. So yeah, I had no idea they'd been around for years. Certainly not 1983 and then before. I think this is actually their fourth album. So when you get all the way to the end, you get Lust Almighty, and that is sort of a throwback to the first two songs, where the return of the galloping, sort of chugging along rhythm there, the tribal kind of vocals, and the rallying cry vocals, with So I want to give this 3 stars because it is exciting, it is energetic, but it is very narrow, especially for a band that has different sounds over the years. With this album, it's sort of redundant, some of the tracks on here. They could have branched out, tried some different things. Has a very bright production kind of sound too, which, kind of brightens everything up. A lot of music like this tends to have a murkier kind of presentation. This one is very bright, so they have that going for them. But a solid 3-star album from Killing Joke. And that wraps up this video. We're in the middle of July 1983, and we will continue on the chronological tour of the albums of 1983. In the next video, I'll talk about a couple of punk rock albums from the Wipers and the Circle Jerks. Also in there is Paul Young, Jeffrey Osborne, and Kansas Gives It a Go in 1983. There's more too. There's more. That's the important thing on that one. There's more in there as well. Please join me for that one, or you could actually probably skip everything but the punk rock, really, if I'm honest. Just join me in the one after that. But thank you so much for watching this one and continuing with me on this long saga, living in 1983 with the albums of 1983 for quite a while here, and we're only a little over halfway through the year, so still a lot to go. Great albums coming up. Please continue this with me. It's been fun so far, for me at least. Hopefully for you. I'm Robert Fithen. Hopefully I'll talk to you again in the next one.